Hey people, this is my weekly rundown of things in entertainment news that interest me, and I've got a few interesting stories to share with you this week, starting with the X-Men. Matthew Vaughn will not be directing X-Men Days of Future Past, as was reported before. Not sure exactly what happened, but Bryan Singer will be directing this movie. I believe he was producer on X-Men First Class, and of course he directed the first two X-Men movies before Brett Ratner directed the third. So, I'm not really sure how to feel about this. I mean, I, for one, enjoyed Bryan Singer's first two X-Men movies, and I feel like people are too harsh on them in hindsight for all the ways they deviated from the comics. I did really enjoy X-Men First Class, and I think Matthew Vaughn did a great job on that and Kick-Ass, but I think the franchise is in good hands, and Bryan Singer should do a good job with this movie. In some related news, the first teaser poster for the Wolverine is out, and I don't have any other information about the movie. I just wanted to share the poster with you, so you can see it here and download it in the link in the description if you're interested. Now for some casting news. Frank Grillo has signed on to play Crossbones in the upcoming sequel to Captain America the Winter Soldier, and he might be reprising the role in the sequel to the Avengers. I'm not sure about that. You can check the links in the description for more information, but that's a little bit more unclear right now. Also, Cobie Smulders will be reprising her role as Maria Hill in Captain America the Winter Soldier, so it seems like it will have a lot to do with S.H.I.E.L.D. But to talk a little bit about Crossbones, I'm not super familiar with the character, but I have read a decent amount of Captain America, and Crossbones isn't exactly a goon, but he's not like really in charge of anything. He's not ever the head villain, so I think Crossbones is going to be very significant and important in this movie, but I'm going to speculate that there will be somebody else, like maybe Baron Zemo or somebody that will be kind of giving Crossbones orders. But I think it's very likely that we're going to see Crossbones fighting Captain America, so that should be pretty cool. Hopefully they'll do this character justice and make him interesting. Jamie Foxx is reportedly in talks to play Electro in the sequel to The Amazing Spider-Man, and I know a lot of fans are going to have mixed feelings on this because Electro has always been a white guy, but to me, Electro is not one of those characters who really stands out in the personality department. Like, Electro, I've always just thought of more about his powers. Like, he's not like Doc Ock, where I really have a defined sense of who that character is, or Norman Osborn. Electro is just kind of there. He's never really doing anything that interesting in all of the Spider-Man comics I've read. He's just, a lot of the time, very angry. He wants money. He wants to kill people. So, you can really do whatever you want with Electro, and I don't think the portrayal of this character being very similar to what it is in the comic is going to make or break this movie. So I'm really open to what they want to do creatively with this, and I'm going to speculate that Electro is going to be working under Norman Osborn in some capacity, because we've had the threat of Norman Osborn kind of hinted at, and his role within this larger story kind of introduced, and the foundation for that laid in The Amazing Spider-Man. So it makes sense to really build towards Norman Osborn being the main villain in the third movie if you've got the main threat in the second movie very closely linked to him. So that's what I'm kind of suspecting and hoping that they will do with Electro. And I think Jamie Foxx is a very respectable actor, so it should be in good hands, and I'm kind of curious to see how they portray this character. But I'm definitely excited visually to see Spider-Man fight Electro. Like, on the list of characters that have not been shown on the big screen, Spider-Man's villains, Electro is probably near the top for me, just because I think visually he could be very exciting. As a character, I don't know about the conflict between him and Spider-Man. It's not like they've got any sort of really interesting connection there, but I definitely think he's a solid choice to bring into this next movie. I was skeptical of the Lizard, and they did that pretty well, so I think they should do a solid job with Electro. By now, you've probably heard that Disney bought Lucasfilm and there will be a new Star Wars trilogy. I made a video on that a few days ago. It's a very long video, so I don't really want to talk too much about the general story behind this. I think you can pick that up pretty easily. But I did want to give an update on a few of the smaller stories that have been coming out in relation to that. Since the Clone Wars is on Cartoon Network and Disney now owns pretty much, well, not pretty much, all of Star Wars. It's very likely that the Clone Wars will be continuing, but moving to Disney XD, because from how I understand it, Lucasfilm and one of their subsidiaries makes Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the television series. It's not like Cartoon Network is making the series, so they don't have to really shift who is working on it. They really just shift who is distributing the series. So it'll probably be a pretty seamless transition, and the show's not going to change very much. It's just going to be on a different network. Also, it has been confirmed that the new Star Wars movie trilogy will not be based on Timothy Zahn's Thrawn trilogy, which a lot of people kind of see as sort of like the book version of Star Wars episodes 7, 8, and 9. But Timothy Zahn was talking about it, and those books were never really intended to fill that role. I think he said that they would be more like an in-between that kind of bridges the gap between the original trilogy and this sequel trilogy. So the sequel trilogy will probably take place quite a bit after the original trilogy. Like, I think Thrawn starts maybe 5 years after it. I've never read the books, but I'm guessing the sequel trilogy will probably be like 20, 30 years afterward, because it makes sense to keep a link to the original trilogy through the characters like Luke, Han, and Leia, but I don't think they will be the center of it, maybe? I'm not quite sure. But I think it makes sense to have them in there and not go like 100 years in the future, because then what's your real connection to this original trilogy? Why is it really an extension of that story? I think if you look at the first two trilogies, they're Anakin's story. So for the next trilogy, you need kind of some connection to that, aside from this is Luke Skywalker's great-great-grandson. It needs to be closer than that. But that's my take on things. I don't really know too much. But thank you very much for watching. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, subscribe, and tune in next time.